In the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, there's been a retaliation on the part of America and the West, and some of that has focused on these Russian oligarchs. Now, the Russian oligarchs are people who are part of Putin's inner circle. These are people who, many of them with communist backgrounds, but nevertheless, they have profited handsomely in the kind of gangster regime that Putin set up in the aftermath of the Cold War. And what's emerged recently, and there's a very interesting article that reports on this in depth, a number of American universities, notably Yale, we'll be talking about Yale, has apparently been getting money by not only cutting deals with these Russian oligarchs, not only admitting their sons and daughters to Yale as part of this buddy-buddy arrangement, but then also giving prominent positions on various boards, advisory councils, setting up exchange programs, and giving leverage to these Russian oligarchs over the actual management and running of Yale. And all of this has been done in exchange for, well, money. The investigative reporter looking at this, a woman named Clara Malott, she noticed that there were just a lot of Russians popping up at Yale, and not any Russians, but Russians connected to these Putin oligarchs. Dennis and Daria Avin, for example, happened to be the son of a guy named Peter Avin, the former head of Russia's largest private sector bank, and he's very close to Putin. So the Avin twins are recent Yaleys. And they're not the only ones. There's Irina Vekselberg, Yale School of Management, class of 2005, and a younger brother, Alexander Vekselberg. Now, these are the two children of an aluminum czar, another Putin buddy, Viktor Vekselberg. Then there's Laura Friedman, Fridman, class of 2015, and Karya Friedman, class of 2018. These are the daughters of a multi-conglomerate kingpin named Mikhail Friedman. There's also Alexander Abramov, class of 2014. Actually, it's Alexander Abramov Jr., who's the son of, you guessed it, Alexander Abramov, steel czar in Russia. And then there's Lila Blatvanik, class of 2024, daughter of billionaire investor and Putin buddy Len Blavatnik. So what you see here is this kind of team of oligarchs dispatching their sons and daughters who apparently have an open door at Yale. Now, that's only the starting point. It'd be one thing, look, colleges, and this is a little shameful for Ivy League universities to do this because they don't need to. Generally, they're flush with cash, and we'll come back to why Yale believed that they needed the cash in this case. But nevertheless, it's one thing to say, all right, well, this is a famous person, let's let them in. It's a whole other matter to allow these oligarchs to essentially bring their tentacles into Yale University, set up programs within Yale, and begin to manage the curriculum, and also to shift Yale's emphasis in a kind of pro-Russian direction. Now, how did this all get started? And a big culprit here, by the way, isn't just Yale in general, but specifically the Yale School of Management. Yale School of Management saw a huge opportunity in tapping into this wealth in Russia, and I want to talk about how that actually happened. So evidently this all began in 2008 with, yes, the 2008 crash. Apparently Yale University had a big chunk of its endowment invested in Lehman Brothers. And Lehman Brothers, you remember, went bankrupt, went belly up after 2008. And that was a huge hit. Yale lost 25% of its endowment in one shot. And so naturally, Yale was scrambling. How do we get all this money back? And of course, this is where the Russian oligarchs began to sort of step in. The key figure here was a guy named Viktor Vekselberg. And this is a guy who's in effect running a school of management, or at least he's the mover and shaker, a school of management in Moscow that's called the School of Management Skolkovo. This is the Russian name for a kind of corresponding school of management. And so this guy, Vekselberg, comes to Yale and he says, look, there's a lot of money that can come your way, not just from me, but also from my friends. But we're not looking to just give it. We're looking for, as he put it, a relationship. And this is the key word. Basically, what Vekselberg was saying is we can provide money, but the golden rule is that he who provides the gold helps to make the rules. And we want kind of in at Yale. We want to be able to set up programs beneficial to us. We want to reorient Yale in such a way that it has a better relationship, which is to say it's more pro-Russian in its curriculum. And so this has been now going on for several years. And apparently it's only now, with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, that it's come to light. And not only come to light, but Yale has been moving really quickly now to wipe out the records of its deep connections with these Russian oligarchs. So one by one, their names are all disappearing off of various buildings, off of various committees, and essentially Yale is engaged in a kind of cleanup operation. So this journalist, Clara Malott, is very shrewd in noticing, wait a minute, this guy used to be on this committee. He's gone. And Yale just simply maintains, well, we don't really comment on how we put names on buildings. Well, look at this Russian oligarch. He was serving on this board of directors. I see that he's been removed. Oh, yeah, his term must have expired. Well, she notices his term hasn't expired. So what's going on here is the equivalent of the New York Times going back and stealth editing its earlier articles, except now it's a university doing this. Essentially, these Russian oligarchs who were previously VIPs at Yale have now come to become, bad guys, and we can't be associated with them. And so suddenly a cleanup operation is underway. But if you ask me, Yale is sort of trying to have the best of all worlds. It's trying to get rid of the stain of the Russian oligarchs while keeping their money.